Good morning, everyone. This is Father Nate, missionary priest in Italy, and thanks for joining us today, August 20th, on No Greater Delight, our podcast on Marian feasts and Marian meditations. Well, today we start off with the Abbot Orsini, who tells us they celebrate the commemoration of Saint Bernard's Ave Maria in Brabant in the Netherlands. We're told that in the celebrated Church of the Benedictines of Fichem in Brabant is seen an image of the Blessed Virgin, of which it has been received by tradition that Saint Bernard, saluting it in these terms, Salve Maria, the statue answered him, Salve Bernarde. There you go, a little conversation between Our Lady and Saint Bernard. Today they also celebrate in Czechia, or the Czech Republic, Nanebevzetí Panny Maria in Most in Ústí nad Labem. So in the 1250s, the Catholics of Most built a church in early Gothic style. In 1515, it burned down. On August 20th, 1517, the cornerstone of the new church was laid. This late Gothic building was dedicated to the Assumption of the Blessed Virgin Mary in 1597. Right? Baroque decorations were added in the 1700s, including a main altar painting of 1773. In 1975, the huge three-nave church was moved half a mile away to make room for the expansion of a lignite coal mine. So it's still a house of worship and the site of diocesan pilgrimage on the Sunday near the feast of the Assumption, a Sunday near the feast. The church also houses a museum of Gothic and Renaissance Bohemian art. Interesting. Now we'll jump back to Italy and we'll celebrate a Madonna della Sanità, we can be Our Lady of Sanity, in Savigliano in Cuneo. So the shrine, the origins date back to 1613, when a young girl of a little farmer girl of the place, it got two different stories, which is kind of very, very funny because they correspond. They both agree that it's 1630 and it's a young peasant girl, but some said that she's insidiated against, the devil was tempting her, and then someone says that she was tempted against her moral honesty. I think that's a euphemism, because it says that she invoked the Blessed Virgin with great faith, and to her great surprise, she saw her aggressor flee away as if he had been struck by an extraordinary terror, right? So in that place, there is a pillar with an image of Our Lady who is breastfeeding the child Jesus. According to tradition, it was made as a fresco by local painters. And then from then on, so that's the image that was constructed there. And then in the 1720s, they actually built a new and proper church for it, and the miraculous fresco was transferred there, right? The lateral altars are very interesting. This is a very story. And so it's just been a very important site for them. And in fact, they celebrate the feast of Madonna della Sanità on the first Sunday after the Assumption, right? So that's why they celebrate it today. Likewise, they also celebrate today the Beata Vergine di Paitone in Brescia, Italy, right? So again, the story goes back to August of 1532, when Our Lady appeared on a hill to the mute Filippo Viotti, who was just, like a poor peasant. As Italians point out, they're like, Viotti is not a normal name from the region, so maybe he was there as somebody who was trying to work and make money for his family. Okay. So what has happened here? Well, this mute man saw the Blessed Virgin, and he regained his gift of speech, right? So he was able to speak, and then he told them what Our Lady had asked. She had requested that they make a church for her. So the townspeople said, okay, I get the impression they were kind of hesitant, or at least the government leaders were, but then they're like, well, there's not really a whole lot we can do because the kid couldn't talk before, and now he can talk, so obviously something happened, so I guess we'll respect her wishes. But this gave rise to a second miracle, because they built a shrine, and the rectors of the shrine decided to ask one of these celebrated painters, Alessandro Bonvicino, to paint an image of Our Lady, right? So that future generations would be able to honor her as she appeared to them there. The problem is that he kept asking this poor peasant guy, and he didn't give them any particular help. He gave like broad details and things like that. And like, oh my gosh. And so, what did the painter do? Well, actually, it was very beautiful, right? He went to confession, then received the Eucharist, and then he asked Our Lady for help, right? Like praying, he's like, please let me know how to draw you. And so it said that he saw the next night in his sleep, the whole, like the miraculous image, like what she should appear like. And so the following morning he woke up and he had in mind like that image. And so he painted it, and then he showed it to the peasant who had received the apparition. And she exclaimed, she appeared exactly in that way and exactly wearing those clothes, which he didn't, like the painter didn't know, when the Mother of God appeared to me to loosen the knots of my tongue. So very beautiful. So one miracle gave rise to yet another miracle. And that's what we're celebrating today in the Marian world on August 20th. For today's Marian meditation, taken from the book by Father Ildefonso Villar, we start with meditation 67, entitled In Calvary, the Third Word. And our first point is Mary in the agony of Jesus. Look at the group of pious women who, standing by the cross, want to keep Jesus company till his death. The greatest proof of our love for Christ is, doubtlessly, to follow him up to the cross, to be crucified with him and to die with him. In the middle of all of them, as the leader and model, is our Blessed Lady. Without her, the other woman might not have had the courage to go up to Calvary. They might have failed, unable to stand that terrible scene. Mary, with her example, encourages and supports them. Why in your sufferings do you fail to look at Mary, in order to learn from her how to stand at the foot of the cross? In the meantime, Jesus had already entered his last agony. A short time remains for him, and he wants to make the most of it, in order, as usual, to fulfill to perfection all his obligations. He is king, and from his cross he bestows eternal crowns like the one he has just bestowed on the good thief. He is pontiff and high priest, and as such he prays for his enemies. He implores and obtains pardon for their sins. He is the Son of Mary, and as Son he looks after her, and does not abandon her in that moment. He is teacher, and as such he looks after the faithful disciple who is present there, and also after the other faint-hearted disciples who have cowardly abandoned him. What an example Jesus gives. In these moments of sorrow and of untold pain, of crucifixion and of death, where already in his agony one would expect him to think only of his own sufferings, he, on the contrary, thinks of us all, remembers us all. Measure your selfishness with that selflessness, the immense charity of Jesus. How do you behave when you are sick, when you are sorrow-stricken? Do you seek only consolation and complain of any lack of attention? Learn also how to be faithful to your obligations. Even at that moment, Jesus did not dispense himself from the exact fulfillment of his duties. Shame on us. How often does not the slightest ailment, the most insignificant indisposition, suffice to cause us to abandon our duty?